Konami Studios. Fantastic Four Life Story, the 60s. That's right, Spider-Man Life Story blew people's minds. It was a great book. It was very compelling, very different, a type of story that I'm amazed nobody's really wanted to explore before. But here we are, it happened, and now Fantastic Four is getting the same treatment. And I was really excited for this book, more so than I was for Spider-Man, just because Fantastic Four is my jam. You know, I've said it recently. Johnny Storm is my guy. Sue Storm Richards is one of my favorite characters in all of comic books. Reed is so great. Ben is so great. I love these characters. You're going to do a life story with them? There's so much history here. They started the Marvel Universe, so yes, you can do a life story with them. And Mark Russell's going to write it? One of my favorite writers working today who can perfectly encapsulate everything this book needs to be? I'm on board. You sold me already. I'm very excited to see what it's going to do. Right off the bat, I do want to clarify this doesn't follow the same format as Spider-Man Life Story. It's about the decade. Spider-Man was more just like focused on like a singular year in the life. This has a lot more jumping around in that decade, which is fine. Some people might be distracted by that. But I think it works for what this story's trying to say. I really do. So, we open up and it's 1961. JFK is talking to a couple of scientists, Dr. Jones and Dr. Richards, and basically, we've had a couple failed missions trying to get to space. We needed to get there. We need to get to space. So, Reed is like, yeah, I mean, I can build you a spaceship and get there, no problem. Like, come on, man. I got you. I got you covered. Now, something I like about this book that I don't know if a lot of people are going to, like, pick up on this or not. But when the Fantastic Four started in the 60s, there was a considerable age gap between some of the characters, in particular between Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Now, I don't know how they're going to play that up in this book, because they didn't really specify the ages. But when we meet Reed in this book, he already has the gray temples. And when we get to see Sue, they're together, but she's considerably younger than him. Now, I'm not saying it's like awkward younger, like 20 years, but she's younger than him. Which, I'm fine with that. It's how the book starts, so if we're going to see the way that grows, I'm interested. I really am. So, Reed's going to get us to space. We're going to be the Americans in space. Russia beat us, but we're going to get to there first and do better and get greater things. And the project's coming along really good. Reed's getting everything ready to go. He gets a call from his girl, Sue, and we see Susan does look way younger, but that's fine. We see Johnny too, and Johnny he's a kid. He is in his teens, I'm going to imagine, which is fine. I'm okay with that. So I like it. This is our introduction to those characters. Johnny's very young. Reed's the oldest of the group, which I like. We see the pilots getting the suits on with the fours on them, and we get like some information where they're shutting down the project. So Reed kind of starts to freak out, like they're going to shut the whole project down. They don't like the idea of the antimatter fuel. It's the only way we could get there. It's this guy, Ricardo Jones, who's kind of going against Reed. He's kind of the antagonist for a lot of this earlier stuff, which I kind of like to see. And I like that Reed's like, they're going to dismantle the whole ship tomorrow, which means they have a day to get the project going to see if it can happen. Now, it moves kind of fast in that regards, but hey, that's how things work. That's the campy nature of the 60s. So I'm on board for that. I really am. And I kind of like that Reed's a little bit aggressive in this story. Because, you know, everything he does, he's a grown man trying to get his project going. So I understand it. If he was like Miles Teller age, I wouldn't buy his anger. But a guy like this, I get it. So Johnny says, okay, I guess I'm coming with you. Reed said earlier that he wishes Sue could come with him because, women's rights. She can't get on a spaceship, all that crap. Y'all get it? And we get a little bit of a retcon because we do need a pilot. And this is where the retcon comes in from the actual story. Because it's out of continuity, I don't think it matters that much. But we see this bar called The Runway, and there is a man inside that Johnny knows. They don't really explain how Johnny knows him. But it's Ben Grimm. Now, we kind of say the idea Reed and Ben aren't friends from college or school or the streets at all. They never met before today. That could bother some people. To me, when you're telling this different kind of story, the Fantastic Four, I think it makes sense to do it this way because then it kind of distances Ben from the rest of the group, which he is kind of the outsider. When we get to the part of this story, I'm sure we're going to focus on that a lot more. So he just lost his job. He wants to get his girl Sally something nice, but it's probably not going to work. So he reluctantly signs up to be the pilot for this test thing. They just kind of like sneak into the place. They put on the nice uniforms. That's like the image that they teased for this book. The early days of Fantastic Four, and it looks great. I love it. I love that Susan's standing in front. She's just the greatest. It's very fun. They get in the ship. Everything works fine. They just head off, and I don't know if this is like a thing that anybody was thinking, but you can see like a picture of the guard who kind of like let them get inside. It kind of looks like Stan Lee. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but just the coloring, especially with like the bright lights. And he looks younger in like the earlier panel, but when you see like the ship actually take off into space, like it looks like Stan Lee, which is kind of cool. So then the origin happens pretty fast. They're in space, everything's going well. Reed's like, we got everything right, but the one thing you can't like simulate on Earth to make perfect is the cosmic rays we could get hit by or introduced, because he didn't know they existed. And you combine that with the antimatter fuel, bad things are happening, and we see the way the powers are emulating on the characters. Johnny catches fire, Sue starts to disappear, Ben freezes into a rock, Reed has to crash the abort button. He eventually does it. They crash land back on Earth, and as they're doing that, Reed has like this flash of light happen to him. And they don't really know what it is or anything, but we see that like, okay, he has a glimpse of death, of like the illusion or like the end of all beings, and it's a thing of Galactus. So he sees Galactus, and you're like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. Then we cut back to everyone in the hospital. It looks like everyone's doing fine, everything's going well, and again, this is it. This is the stuff I'm like, give me more of this. I like when you play with this. I like when you don't. It's fine, but Ben freaks out. He doesn't know Reed. This man literally just hired him, and now he's a monster, and he's pissed off. But JFK is on the screen. He's talking about like the best thing humanity can be, and it is the Fantastic Four, and it's just amazing. So instantly they become celebrities, but reluctantly Ben's just a part of the team. He doesn't want to be there at all, which I get. You're kind of doing like that classic story, like this man, this monster, where he doesn't want to be himself, and you're combining that to the whole decade where it's from. That works. That's a great idea. I have no complaints about that at all. So they're being celebrated as your celebrities, but the thing still feels like the outsider, which I get. And then we rush through a bunch of stuff. We get the attack from Mole Man, which I think's kind of cool. It plays up that classic idea from the 60s with these characters that more so than superheroes, they were also celebrities and astronauts, which I love when it explores that theme. I love that a lot. I think that's really fun stuff. So they take down the Mole Man. Reed and Sue get married. You see the Avengers in the background. You see everyone's just like, okay, this is interesting. Kind of cool. It's kind of fun. But, there's some deaths overseas, and there's still, like, a war raging in Vietnam, and you're like, okay, that's weird. It's just, like, this is cool. I really like this. And as they're celebrities, they meet the Beatles. We see Sue Storm march at, what is it? Was that Selma on that march? I think that's the one they're saying she's at right there, which is kind of cool to see. I enjoy it, but Rita's still haunted by this vision of this being of trying to destroy the world, and he's kind of haunted by it. He tries to talk to Nixon, but what the hell's Nixon gonna do? He ain't gonna help anybody. Is that Nixon? I don't even remember anymore. I thought it was Nixon. Maybe I have my who was after... I'm not American. I don't know who was after JFK. Was it Eisenhower? I don't know. It's one of those not really good presidents, I guess. Everything's working perfectly fine. Everyone's happy. Ben's trying to go talk to his girl Sally, but she won't have it. Then we get, Reed on a talk show in 67 with Ricardo, and they're just talking about the idea of, celestial life in the galaxy and aliens exist. Ricardo's all for it. But Reed's like, what about the idea that they could come to kill us, It's like, why would a deer ask where the hunters are? That kind of a thing. And it kind of like bums the mood, but that's Reed, man. It happens. And that idea has plagued Reed for so long, he needs to build a machine to go check it out. He wants to do that, and there's only one person that can help him get there in time, and it's Ben. But Ben's moping around at a bar, and he's like, I gotta do this, and then maybe we'll see what happens. So we get this. I think this is a classic. It's like a revamp of a classic story, of course. We'll have to wait and see what happens. So Someone who's not actually Ben Grimm poses as the Thing. He comes in to help Reed. They're going into the place. We see a glimpse of a reflection of like the human Ben Grimm looking at himself, getting flowers to go talk to his girl. And then we see back in the Thing, oh right, this Ben pushes Reed into like this weird portal, vortex, whatever it is he made, dimensional gateway. And they get inside, and the person we know to be Ricardo Jones, who is this version of the Thing, is just like, oh my god, Reed, you were right this whole time. They see the image of Galactus, and Ricardo's just like, okay, Reed, you're the only man who can stop this. So you have to survive. Like, you have to stop this. Get inside. So he pushes him back through the portal. Ricardo kind of sacrifices himself. And I wonder if we're going to get like a Reed Richards who's haunted by this idea throughout the entirety of the story. I bet you we will. I bet you we will. I think that'd be pretty cool. So we see Ben stand on the doorstep of Sally. He's so ready to go see her, but he looks in the mirror again, and all he sees is the monster he's become, and he can't do it. He can't do it. This is great. I think this is genuinely great stuff. Just the idea of Reed becoming obsessed with Galactus, how that's going to affect the world, all that kind of stuff. I noticed we don't focus a lot on Sue or Johnny in this era because you didn't back then, did you? Sue was the love interest. Johnny was your little kid. I get it. I completely get it. So I think we cut to 69 next. And, a couple years have passed. They haven't really seen Ben, but he comes knocking on the door because he hears that Reed and Sue had a kid. So we're getting right away into Franklin. That's kind of cool. And if this does what the story did in Life Story, by the time we get to the 2010s, that kid is going to be like 50. So I wonder if we're going to kill some of the Fantastic Four along the way in this story. Could be. Wouldn't be surprised. Maybe come issue 6, we're going to have Valeria, Franklin, and those two kids. Was it Jacob and somebody else that the Thing had with somebody? I can't remember. Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. But it's just a nice ending. They see that Neil Armstrong made it onto the moon. Humanity's leaping forward, and the Fantastic Four are together again to get on with the next part of their lives. And this was fun. It's not going to be for everyone because it's very that pulpy space age scientist stuff, like the American Dream. We're fighting people. We're doing some cool power stuff. It's classic Fantastic Four, and somebody who's a fan of that like I am is going to enjoy what this book has to say. It takes some liberties. Of course, it rushes itself a little bit, but I think it holds itself together pretty well. The characters are fun. For a first issue, it sold me on what this story could be and what it could become. I really enjoyed this, and I'm very excited to see what's coming next for these characters and these versions of the Fantastic Four. It's just really enjoyable, and that's all I was looking for. I think this is going to make a lot of people happy, or it's not. And if it doesn't, I get it. It's not going to be for everyone. It's not Spider-Man. I know that. I know some people are going to be like wanting it to have that feel of Spider-Man Life Story, but this feels different. This is very political, which is the Fantastic Four are. They are those characters that have been a part of it from day one. So I'm okay with all of it. I think the stuff they rush is fine to be rushed if we're telling more of the fun story later. It works for me. So, Fantastic Four Life Story, issue number 1, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.